Hey, everybody, we are finishing up the Gospel of Mark today. And what a journey it's been through Mark. Excited to start Luke next week, but we want to finish Mark out with a bang today. And so there's a couple of things. First of all, one of the things that we see in Mark 15 and 16 is that really, no matter what we're talking about, the birth of Jesus, the crucifixion of Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus, the ascension of Jesus, God really is ultimately behind it all. God works it out. God fulfills his promises. It's God's sovereignty and in control over all of it. And so we can be sure that that's the case. And so that allows us to have peace and hope and certainty and all of those things. But the other thing that I want to start off with when talking about Mark 15 and 16 is I hope that reading Mark 15 and 16 elicits some gratitude and thankfulness in your heart for God, for who he is, for what he's done for you, for Jesus, for his willingness to sacrifice for us. Because here's what we see happen in Mark chapter 15. They try Jesus. They don't find him innocent, but they do find him innocent, but as is the custom on Passover, there's what's called the Passover amnesty, which is when the governor, in this case Pilate, has the ability and the authority to release one governor that the crowd or one prisoner that the crowd calls for during Passover. And so he asked them, "Do you want me to release to you this king of the Jews?" And they say, "No, we want Barabbas." Now Barabbas was a guy who led a revolt, led a rebellion, committed murder in an uprising. And so he was in prison and was going to, for all intents and purposes, everything that we know, was going to be crucified. The other thing you need to know about Barabbas is that Barabbas' name actually means son of the Father. And so Jesus, who was completely innocent, because of the crowd, ended up taking the place of a man who was completely guilty, who should have been crucified. Jesus, the Son of our Heavenly Father, took the place of Barabbas, whose name means the Son of the Father, and got flogged and crucified in his place. There are several people who believe that there were three crosses. Jesus got crucified in the middle with a guy on each side of him. There were people who legitimately believe that third cross that Jesus was on was actually meant for Barabbas himself. That the other two guys who were crucified beside Jesus were probably partners in this rebellion with Barabbas, maybe committed murder with him, and they were all supposed to get crucified at the exact same time. But Jesus took the place of Barabbas on that middle cross. And what I want us to realize, and the thing I want to elicit thankfulness and gratitude in you, is it's not just a story about Jesus and Barabbas, it's a story about Jesus and me. It's a story about Jesus and you. You see, you and I, we are Barabbas. We are the ones who are guilty. And Jesus, the innocent one, took our place. He died the death that we deserve. He took God's wrath for us. He experienced separation from the Father so that we didn't have to experience that anymore. You see, we are Barabbas and Jesus took our place. And I hope that elicits some gratitude for you. I hope that as you're reading through the crucifixion of Jesus and you hear the words of Jesus saying, my God, why have you abandoned me? Why have you left me?" And you see in that moment that Jesus is suffering spiritually and he's experiencing separation from his Heavenly Father for the first time ever. And then he dies and the curtain is torn from top to bottom. Obviously, God did that. And the curtain is torn from top to bottom so that you and I realize that because of what Jesus did, we don't have to be separated from God anymore. We have 24/7 full access to our Heavenly Father. It's not just one person going in the holy place one time a year. It is you and I having access to the Father through Jesus at any time we want it. So Jesus experienced all of that and took our place. We are Barabbas. He took our place. He was separated, and because he was separated, God made a way for us to never have to be separated from him. And so I hope this morning you just have some thankfulness in your heart and some gratitude as a result for what Jesus has done for us. But really the thing I want us to get our heads around in Mark 15 specifically, Mark 16 is so short, it's 8 verses that were in the original manuscripts. Verse 9 through 20 were not in the original manuscripts, and so we're not gonna get into a lot of that. I do think it's interesting that Mark kind of leaves us with a cliffhanger. I think it allows you and I to put ourselves in the story of Mark and say, all right, what are we supposed to do with this gospel news that we have? Well, we're supposed to go tell other people about it. We're supposed to go live our lives like it's true, because it is. But the thing I want us to do with Mark 15 is I want us to look at the way that Pilate handles things and the way that Jesus handles things. Because when Jesus is getting questioned by Pilate, he doesn't say anything. Why? Because he's already accepted what God's will for him is, and he's willing to walk into that. But Pilate finds Jesus completely innocent. As a matter of fact, when Pilate says, do you want me to release for you the King of the Jews? And they say, no, Barabbas. Well, what do you want me to do with the King of the Jews? And they say, crucify him. Pilate's response is, why? He hasn't done anything wrong. I have found him completely innocent. In some of the other Gospels, it even tells us that Pilate's wife suffered badly in a dream because of Jesus. And she told Pilate, hey, you need to leave this man alone and wash your hands clean of this situation. And so Pilate knew that Jesus was innocent. Pilate knew that he was supposed to leave this situation alone. But what does it say in Mark 15? Verse 15. Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them, and after having Jesus flogged, he handed him over to be crucified. Eugene Peterson translates it this way. Pilate gave the crowd what it wanted. He set Barabbas free, and he turned Jesus over for whipping and crucifixion. You see, Pilate had an issue. And his issue was that he thought he had to prove something to other people. He thought he had to prove himself to other people. He thought he had to live for the applause and the approval of man. And what he didn't understand was that we need to live for the applause and approval of God, not the applause and approval of other people. But you see, Jesus didn't live like that. As a matter of fact, when Jesus was on the cross and they were going to crucify him, there were people walking by. There were priests and people standing there. There were the Roman soldiers standing there. There were the people crucified beside him. They were all mocking him and insulting him. Here's how the CSB puts it. Those who passed by were yelling insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "Ha! The one who would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days? Save yourself by coming down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests and the scribes were mocking him among themselves and saying, he saved others, but he can't save himself. Let the Messiah, the King of Israel, come down now from the cross so that we may see and believe. Even those who were crucified with him taunted him. Eugene Peterson translates it this way. Show us your stuff. Save yourself. If you're really God's son, come down from that cross. He saved others, but he can't save himself. Messiah is he, King of Israel? Then let him climb down from that cross. We'll all become believers then. You see, Jesus understood that it wasn't the approval of people that he was after. Jesus knew that he didn't have to prove himself to anyone. He was after the applause and the approval of God. And so because of that, he didn't listen to the crowd. He didn't listen to the crowd who was tempting him to not go through with this painful death in order to save himself. And because he was willing to not listen to the crowd, to fight for the approval and applause of God instead of the approval and applause of man, he stayed on the cross and he did not save himself. But because he was willing to deny himself and not save himself, he saved you and I as we place our faith in Jesus. And so for you, I just want to free you up. That you don't have to prove anything to anybody. That your life is not about pleasing other people. That it's not about living for the applause and the approval of other people. It is about pleasing God. It's about living for the applause and approval of God himself and not of man. So let's be a people who are thankful and full of gratitude for what Jesus has done for us. And let's be a people who today, we're all about pleasing God and his approval and his applause, and not about proving ourselves to anybody else or getting the approve or applause of man or anyone else other than God himself. I love you guys. Man, what a journey it's been through, Mark. Can't wait to start Luke with you next week. We'll see you then.